mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here with the first episode of a Patreon exclusive in the series finale tier, the first episode of Mike's Musings. I want to tell you guys real quick, if you watched the Patreon video, you already know what this is about, but in case you didn't watch the Patreon video, but are somehow here anyway, I'm going to explain to you real quick what Mike's Musing is, and I'm going to get into it. I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know if you guys are going to have I don't want that shit to be longer than about 10, 15 minutes. I don't know, but we'll do this one and we'll kind of see where it goes. And then those of you who view it can let me know, like, hey man, you could have talked a little more about that one thing. The video could have stood a little bit longer or shorter, whatever. You can give me that feedback and I'll take all that into account. So what Mike's Musings is gonna be a thing where I basically give you guys, it's gonna be very informal, just me just kind of like, yeah, you know, this is what I thought of this. No big heavy breakdowns, but this could be good for you if, in the true meaning of this channel, the true purpose of this channel is to give you an idea of what's worth the watch, right? This video series is gonna be perfect for that, because it's gonna be me just giving my brief thoughts on a lot of the things, maybe all of the things that I watch that I don't cover on One Mic. So One Mic, you know, you get that kind of like in-depth week by week coverage on a show. But here, I'm going to talk about stuff that I don't dedicate that level of coverage to, because of the fact that, you know, it might be something that's oversaturated in the market, like anything Marvel. Anything Marvel puts out right now, with my lack of footing in this industry, it's not worth it for me to do a video for a Marvel show or a movie, taking the time to record it, you know, get my notes together, record it, edit it, post it, all that for just a handful of views, because there's so many other people who cover Marvel content. Same for Star Wars, stuff like that. So those are kinds of things, you know, I might not put that up there. Or there's things that, you know, I watch with my wife. Me and my wife watch stuff together pretty much nightly, unless we have something else going on. And we'll have our weekly things, like House of the Dragon premieres on Sunday. Every Sunday we'll watch House of the Dragon, but where does that leave us on the other 6 days? So we have things that we watch routinely, and then I don't cover those things on One Mic because it's too inconsistent of a schedule. You know, maybe we watch 2 episodes of something in a night. Maybe we start an episode and one of us falls asleep after 20 minutes. It might take us, you know, a couple of months to get through a show. It might take us a couple of days. It took us, I think, 2 days to get through The Bear. And that was a second watch for me. But it took us, you know, probably like 2 nights to get through The Bear, a couple of hours. It's only about, it's 7 or 8 half-hour episodes, so about 4 hours to get through. Stuff like that. I can't put, I have a video for The Bear, but that's because I watched it first. But the point of that is, we might be too late with something. Like, by the time we finish that, The Bear had already been out for a couple months. So maybe not a couple months, but more than 1 month. So, you know, that might not get covered. Then I don't cover comedies really, because there's not too much to talk about. Just like, okay, did you laugh or not? You know, I'll cover a comedy that has some extra content, like Ted Lasso. You're not just there for the laughs on Ted Lasso. And then, like I said, again, you might couple that with timeliness. You know, one show I'm going to talk about on this video is Reservation Dogs. And I just started watching Reservation Dogs. I just got caught up on it. And now I feel like there's really no point to starting a video series for Reservation Dogs, because I didn't do one for all of season 1. I'm late on the first few episodes, and I don't want to pick it up midway through a season and start doing coverage on a half-hour, I think it's a stretch to call it a comedy, but a half-hour show. So, you know, those are some of the reasons. Oh, and then, then I have stuff that I watch on my own. You know, after my wife goes to sleep, after my kids go to sleep, it might be anywhere between 10 p.m. and midnight. I'll go out in the garage, light up a cigar, and then I got shit that I watch on my own. It might be some sports stuff. It might be, again, some more comedies, politics, like Bill Maher, John Oliver, just one-off things that I'm like, okay, I have some curiosity in this because I heard about it, something my wife might not be interested in, things like that. So those are the kind of things that I'm going to cover on Mike's Musings. I'm 5 minutes into this video, and I hope I never have to explain Mike's Musings in a video ever again. But that's the concept of these videos. So I'm going to talk about 6 things Again, I don't know how long this is going to be, but I'm going to talk about 6 things real quick that I watched in my personal time over the course of the last month, maybe. And even that might be a stretch. 6 things that I've watched in my personal time over the course of the past month, and just kind of give you my thoughts on them. The first thing is The Captain, which is a ESPN docuseries about Derek Jeter. I think it aired over the course of 4 weeks. They put out 2 episodes a week, which was on Thursdays, which was great. I loved, like I mentioned, after my family goes to sleep, I'll go in the garage. I loved going in the garage, packing a bowl into my bong, grabbing a cigar, and sitting back for 2 hours and watching this documentary because it was so fucking cool. And it's like, if you aren't a baseball fan, you're not going to like it. If you weren't into baseball at the time that Derek Jeter was playing, you're not going to like it. But if you were a fan during that time, even if you don't like Derek Jeter, but if you were a fan of baseball at the time that Derek Jeter was playing, man, you're going to love this fucking documentary. I loved this series so much that it's probably going to get, there's no probably, it's going to get an honorable mention in my best of 2022 list in January 2023 because I can't not factor in my own personal enjoyment. Like, even if you strip away, if it's a TV show, acting, or any of that stuff, my own personal enjoyment, like if I look for your shit week to week, I'm like, oh shit, it's whatever day of the week, I get to watch a new episode of blank, you're gonna get in my list somehow. And, that happened with Love on the Spectrum, this Netflix show about people with autism trying to date, people on the autism spectrum trying to find love. It's a reality show, but like I love that show so much that it had to get an honorable mention. Same for The Captain. But like I said, if you're not a baseball fan or you weren't a baseball fan during the time that Derek Jeter was playing, you're probably not going to like it. But I was watching it just like memories, nostalgia flowing in. Even, like I said, even as someone, I'm not a Yankees fan, I'm a Tigers fan, but like I remember all the stuff that they mentioned here. And if you're a fan of sports, you can't help but enjoy reliving some of the great moments that Jeter had throughout his career, the stuff with A-Rod. You get to learn a whole lot of new things about his personal life and about what he's like as a person. If you're a Yankees fan, you might already know what he's like as a person. But for me, as a Tigers fan, I didn't know anything about Derek Jeter that was outside of his play. So I got to learn about what kind of person he was. He seems very similar to like a baseball kind of Jordan, Michael Jordan. So really good docuseries. I highly recommend it if you are a fan during that era of baseball. Anything other than that, it's probably not for you. But that's one thing that I watched, and that's over. So now all 7 episodes are available on ESPN On Demand or ESPN Plus, whichever you have. You can watch all 7. They're about an hour apiece. The next thing is Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn is an interesting one for me because it was something that I didn't get into at first. It didn't look like something I would like. And I kept hearing people who I respected say that it was really entertaining. And I watched seasons 1 and 2, and it took a minute for me. At first, I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't need if the conceit or the way that you plan on drawing me in is by having animated characters curse, not gonna work for me. I need a little. I'm not that remedial. I'm gonna need a little bit more stimulation besides hearing the Joker say fuck. Like, that's not gonna work for me. And sure enough, the show actually does get pretty good, and it got to a point where I was really enjoying it. It got really funny. They added a cast of characters, or included a cast of characters that I found to be great. Bane is incredible on there. King Shark is incredible on there. King Shark and Bane are my 2 favorite characters. Whichever one is funnier in an episode, that's how they move between numbers 1 and 2. But Bane and King Shark are my favorite characters. They have a great Clayface character on there. They do really great stuff with Harley and her character development and her relationship with the Joker in a way that is still goofy, but feels a little bit more realistic than your traditional kind of comic book, what they had in the comics for like Harley and Joker. And a lot of this stuff some of this stuff is pulled from the comics, but what I mean by that is there are lessons that Harley learns from her relationship with the Joker that she applies to real life in a way that feels pretty genuine, how someone would do that in real life. She develops a relationship with Poison Ivy as well. And they bring in various villains, various side characters, various great guest voices. And it's just a really entertaining show. And it recently returned for season 3. I believe episode 6 dropped today. Today is August 18th, by the way, Thursday, August 18th. I believe episode 6 dropped today. I'm going to check that out at some point. This season has not quite been as good as the first 2, and it's only because the way they've handled... Again, I don't want to get into spoilers. I just want to talk about the show. The way they've handled Harley and Poison Ivy's relationship throughout the series run is in a place right now that I think it's dominating too much of the narrative on the show. I'd like to see a little bit less of what they're doing there and get me some more of the other characters. So that's the only reason, but just a little bit. It's still a highly entertaining show. Hard Knocks on HBO about the Lions. It's out. The Lions have never had a Hard Knocks. The second episode just came out, I want to say Tuesday, maybe? I haven't watched it yet, but I did watch the first episode. I've never watched Hard Knocks, period. So watching Hard Knocks was pretty cool. I enjoyed seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff about the Lions. It's interesting to me that they would put such a shitty team on that show, or a team that was at the very least really shitty last year. But they're on the show, and I think seeing Dan Campbell, the Lions coach, outside of just like at a podium in front of a microphone, seeing him behind the scenes in his personal life, but also how he handles the team during training camp has been interesting. Seeing these players and how they work during training camp, but then also how they talk, learning their mindsets, how they approach the season, how they feel about last season. All those things I find to be really interesting. So just, as a football fan, it's something that you're going to enjoy if you are a football fan, because it's going to give you that insight into this team, but into any season of Hard Knocks you watch, it'll give insight into that specific team. But like this specific one about the Lions is going to give you insight into these players, where their minds are at, where their heads are at. The coaching staff. The coaching staff is full of former players. So if you're a longtime NFL fan, you're going to see a lot of faces you recognize. But yeah, it's just interesting to just get that kind of like that pull back of the curtain, behind the scenes. Like, here's what's going on with the Detroit Lions, the stuff that you don't see every day. So I find that to be really interesting. I'm enjoying Hard Knocks. I think it's gonna reflect well on the Lions. And what I mean by that is I feel like people who are watching it who are not Lions fans might become Lions fans. At least maybe not like, oh, I'm checking them out every week, or I fuck with this team, but kind of like, all right, I like these guys. Like, I won't be, if they find some success, as long as it's not against my team, whoever your team may be, you might look at it like, if they find some success, I'm going to be happy for them. I like this scrappy group of fellas. So I think you'll get that if you watch this show. Next up is The Rehearsal. The Rehearsal is I think actually the final episode of the season airs tomorrow, I believe. But it's a show, man, it's going to be hard to talk about this without spoiling it. It stars Nathan Fielder, who, if you watched his show Nathan For You that was on Comedy Central, you're already going to be familiar with this guy. I don't want to give you too much on Nathan For You, so I'm just going to talk about The Rehearsal. But essentially what this is, one, I think it's important to point out that Nathan is a weird guy. And I still don't have a firm grasp on how much, if any, of Nathan's, I don't want to say performance, because that makes it sound like I automatically think he's faking, but like his persona. How much of Nathan's persona that we see on the show is really who Nathan is, or is there some of that that's a little bit performative? I don't know. But the Nathan that we see on this show is a very weird guy. He seems to have issues with like social issues, like interacting with people. And the concept of the show is that he gives people the opportunity to rehearse going through an event that they might find troublesome to go through. So I'll give you an example. The very first episode, there's a guy who wants to confess to his friends on his trivia team that he never actually graduated college. And everyone else on his team did, and they are under the impression that he is a college graduate, and he's concerned that if he tells them he didn't graduate from college, they're going to think less of him. It's actually kind of a, no pun intended, trivial issue, but For whatever reason, he's really concerned about this, and he's really concerned about telling it to one specific person in particular. So he gets with Nathan, and Nathan like builds like it's incredibly elaborate what he does. He builds, well, he doesn't build it. HBO gives him copious amounts of money to build a bar that is an exact replica of the bar in this guy's town. And then he'll like hire actors to pretend to be these people. He will research these people himself so that way he can pretend to be like, have their personalities and try to make everything as controlled as possible, but as close to the actual reality as he can. So that way, when the person goes into their uncomfortable situation, they will have already gone through this scenario in a lot of different possibilities. So they're going to feel more prepared, and they're going to feel less anxious about the possibility of something they hadn't predicted taking place. So that's kind of the basic concept of the show, but it's one of those shows that has like this underlying kind of brilliance where everyone is learning lessons based upon this. And the first episode is great in that it feels weird kind of like throughout the whole thing. You find yourself like, okay, I can't wait for this guy to actually confront his trivia partner. And then when it happens, you realize that there was a lot more going on than you realized that there was. And it ends up in a place that's kind of brilliant. As the show moves on, it doesn't become like every week there's a different person that he helps. There kind of becomes a through line throughout the rest of the season that is a rehearsal for something else, and it involves Nathan, and it takes a lot of twists and turns. He does some other rehearsals throughout the rest of the season, but I kind of feel like the purpose of the show might have gotten away from him. But then again, that's me assuming I know the purpose, and I don't. But I can say the show, in my opinion, doesn't live up to the promise of the first episode. And you couple that with the fact that this is a very unique show. This is the kind of show that you can love fully with your full heart and then go, I can't recommend this to anyone else, because it takes a very unique type of person to enjoy this type of show. So, but when you couple that, the idea that I feel like the show hasn't quite lived up to the promise of the first episode, when you combine that with the fact that this is a very tough show to recommend because a very particular kind of person is going to like this, and I feel like most people would not. Like, I feel like if you show the rehearsal to 10 people, 9 people are going to be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't want to watch this shit. And then that one person is going to be like, oh, okay. But then I feel like you show that one person who liked it the rest of the episodes, and they're probably going to check out before the end of the season. So, I've enjoyed the rehearsal. I'm going to finish it out when the final episode drops tomorrow, but that's one that it's not one I can recommend, just because even as someone who gets it, I've started to find it to be less rewarding than it was in the first episode. So if I have found diminishing returns, if you're not somebody who's already prone to liking this type of show, you'll turn it off after 10 minutes, I promise. So not too much going on there. 18 minutes. I'm going to get through these last two as quickly as I can. Reservation Dogs, like I mentioned, I've been watching that. I went through season 1 fairly quickly. I think 8 half-hour episodes, give or take. And then I watched season 2. So I am caught up on Reservation Dogs, aside from, I believe, a new episode came out yesterday, which I haven't watched yet. So I'm technically not current, but I'm close. Reservation Dogs, they call it like a half-hour comedy. There's a couple of laughs, but I've noticed that it seems to me in television, if you're not an hour, they're going to call you a comedy, because it's like for some reason you just can't call something a drama if it's less than an hour. I don't know why that is, but even if you look at like The Bear on Hulu, I think it'll look like when it lists the genres, I think comedy will be one of them, and The Bear is not a comedy. Reservation Dogs, in my opinion, is not a comedy. There are moments that are played for laughs, but it's not a comedy. But it's a show about these 4 Native American teenagers who live on this reservation, and it's really just kind of like about their day-to-day, but they're dealing with a couple of things. They're dealing with the suicide of a friend who the show takes place after this suicide, so you don't experience the suicide during the show if you're somebody who has issues with that. Well, they do show the aftermath, but it's in a flashback, so it's not like a thing where you're watching this character and then they're dead. But they're dealing with the suicide of a friend, and they're also dealing with kind of feeling like stagnant in their hometown. Like they can't really do anything with their lives. So they kind of make this plan to go to California and try to make something of themselves. And that's kind of the idea of the show, like a Native American kind of like coming of age story, I guess. The characters are unique. The culture is very unique. You know, when I talked about Yellowstone, I talked about just being impressed by seeing something intriguing, but that seems totally foreign to me. Like the idea of like cowboys and living the type of lives that the characters live on Yellowstone is nothing like I've ever seen or imagined. And it seems very basic, but you know, as someone who's born and raised in Detroit, the stuff on Yellowstone is just, like, that might as well be another country to me. And it's the same with Reservation Dogs. You know, watching this, it's like, you know, I'm learning about their slang, how they interact with one another, how their town kind of lives and breathes, like how the people navigate through this town. It feels, again, this feels cultural. This doesn't feel like this is how these specific individuals live in this town. This is how these Native Americans on their reservation, this is how they live, breathe, interact, all that stuff. I enjoy learning about new cultures, but particularly cultures that are, particularly foreign. And the irony is that a literal foreign culture, like say, you know, European or something like that, is less intriguing to me than a foreign culture, but it's here in the United States. Because you think here in the United States, you think everything is more or less the same. So to find out that there's people who live like the characters on Yellowstone, there's people who live like the people on Reservation Dogs, you know, that kind of stuff interests me. So I dig that about the show. I think the actors who are playing these characters, these kids are really good. I think these characters are really interesting and intriguing and likable characters. So the only thing is I don't like this show as much as everyone else likes it, and I can't pinpoint why. And I also can't pinpoint if it's I like it less than everyone else, or if everyone likes it a bit too much. You know? Because we do live in a world where there's a whole lot of pandering to various groups. You know, when you have a history in this country of alienating groups, when you have a show like this that uplifts those groups, there's going to be a tendency to kind of like go all the way to the opposite extreme to counteract what happened in the past. So you might look at this show and go, oh, it's a Native American show with all these characters and it reflects their culture and everything. This is great because you almost like you feel like you owe them the praise because you know how we've treated them historically. So you feel like you got to over counter all of that behavior by throwing excessive praise on it just because it's who they are. And I feel like there could be some of that going on, but that's something you can never really know, obviously. But I do know for sure that it seems like most fans of the show like it far more than I do. I don't dislike it or anything like that. I mean, I'm still watching it. I enjoy it, but it's not something where, I think this is the big indication. It's not something where it's like Wednesday comes and I'm like, Reservation Dogs today? Yes. I was more excited for watching the Derek Jeter thing on Thursdays than I was for Reservation Dogs. So, I gave you an idea of the show. I do enjoy it. I just don't enjoy it as much as it seems like the majority of the fandom does. But it's a show that I would recommend if you're interested in seeing the culture. It can be, I don't want to say off-putting, but it can be, just as it's something so different. You might watch it and go, this isn't for me. So it's one of those things where you never really know. You might watch it and be like, oh, I'm interested in this new group of people and how they behave and their life experiences and what they're going through. Or you might watch and be like, nah, this doesn't interest me. So up to you. But I do recommend it, I would say, tepidly. Like, I'm not sitting here like, watch this shit. But I'm sitting here like, yeah, check it out. I'm giving watch this shit to the captain if you, again, are a fan of baseball during that time period. And then I will give a watch this shit to Industry on HBO. So prior to the premiere of the second season, I started hearing about Industry. I didn't even know about season 1, let alone watch it. But I saw a lot of hype for the second season. I'm like, why don't I know about this show? Second season premiered, and I thought, let me go back and see if I can watch season 1, see if I can get through it pretty quickly, and then maybe I'll get caught up with season 2 if I like it. And I started season 1, And I want to say the show is kind of like a combination of Succession and Euphoria, which, hearing me say that, if you're a fan of this channel, you already know Succession and Euphoria are like my two, like the two shows that I probably praise the most on this channel are Succession and Euphoria, historically, just like continuous praise. So hearing that combination, you're probably like, holy shit, he really loves this show. And I do enjoy this show. I wouldn't say I love it just yet. I do think it is really good though. It's Succession, but it's younger people. I would say I'd probably peg them as like in their mid-20s. Pause. Is in like their early to mid-20s, working in a bank. So it's not financial like Succession where you're dealing with like CEOs. It's, at least at this point in season 1, which I just finished last night, by the way. It's people who are who just kind of are starting out at this bank and trying to earn permanent positions within the bank. So you have the kind of like politics, backstabbing, betrayals, chess moving, all this kind of stuff, drama, the interpersonal character stuff. You get that on a Succession kind of vibe. That's the Succession piece. And then the Euphoria piece is the fact that 1, they're younger, and 2, there's a whole lot of fucking on this show. And graphic. Like, Game of Thrones was kind of like, I don't even want to necessarily say graphic in its portrayal, but almost graphic in its frequency. This is graphic in its portrayal. Like, this show, like, anytime a sex scene pops off on this show, if you're watching it with anyone other than by yourself, you're probably gonna be embarrassed. Like, okay, I'm a little uncomfortable watching this with someone else in the room. But the show, I think, hits its stride around season 1, episode 4, I believe it was. Episode 4 is incredible, man. Like, I was on the edge of my seat very literally in episode 4. And the show kind of maintains that tension level throughout the rest of season 1. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to watching these first 3 episodes of season 2, which I hope to get through them tonight. I might not get through them, but I will at least start on it tonight. So looking forward to that. I'm definitely giving a watch this shit to industry. So check that one out. And I'm going to wrap this up with, I don't know when I'm going to be putting another one of these out. I'm not going to limit it to just one a month. I'll probably put it out as I see fit for those of you in the $10 tier. But right now, I'm wrapping up Only Murders in the Building. You can check that out on the main channel on YouTube. I will have coverage of House of the Dragon starting Monday morning. I will have coverage of Rings of Power starting September 2nd when it comes out. And I think that's all I have. That's all I can remember right now. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff, but that's all I can think of right now that I have coming. So I will see you guys for Mike's Musings episode 2 whenever that drops. And until then, peace.